Hi folks, how's it going? It's raining today and I have one day off, and Cindy Lou didn't feel like going outside in the rain, did ya? So I thought today I would finally talk about some of the things that I learned from the wildfires. Not from the wildfires themselves, of course, because I didn't actually witness it. I want to preface this, of course, I didn't personally have to evacuate. The fire did not come close to my house. For those of you who might be new to the channel, the fires were, geographically they were quite close. It was just a few minutes away up the highway, and even less as the crow flies. So it did get quite scary right here where I live, and the dog is about to knock the table over that has the camera on it. All of the small communities that did have to evacuate ended up here in the town where I live. So and even some of my coworkers, they had to evacuate. They had to leave their homes. They were out of their homes for 3 weeks. So for the people who evacuated, they were away from their homes for 3 to 4 weeks. And then there were a lot of people that I have met, because I work in the local grocery store, who lost their homes. They lost everything. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about other people's experiences from what I've heard from talking to them, and from what you see on the news and read in news articles and such. Some of it is going to be secondhand because, people at work and customers in the store say, I saw on Facebook this, that, and the other. So whatever you see on Facebook, grain of salt, throw it over your shoulder. So first off, as I said, I personally did not have to evacuate, and the town where I live was not officially put on evacuation alert, but we were told you might as well just be ready just in case. So I was. I tried to be as ready as I could. I've posted two different go bag videos. The first one I posted after the first fire in May. I packed a 72-hour bag, and that stayed in my car. I repacked the 72-hour bag just a couple of weeks ago. Again, that's going to stay in my car, but I just kind of changed it and put in some winter things for, winter disasters. If we have an ice storm and the power goes out and we have to evacuate, or, anything like that. Or, if I just happen to be in my car and we get stuck in a snowstorm on the Trans-Canada and, have to stay in the car. We'll have stuff in the car. As well as a 72-hour bag, we learned that it's also a good idea to have important papers ready when you have to evacuate your house. My coworkers who had to evacuate, and everybody who had to evacuate, they were given 10 to 15 minutes to grab what they could and then go. That's not a lot of time to grab what you need and, to go. People I know who have lived through other disasters, like the World Trade Center towers coming down on 9/11. Yes, I had a friend who lived in New York City at the time. He doesn't, he's over in New Jersey now. But he saw the plane hit the tower and he ran home, and he ended up grabbing, 12 pairs of socks, and that was it. So when you're in the moment, you're not quite sure, what do I grab? Do I grab this? Do I grab this? Do I grab this? So if you can pre-plan, if you can prep and be ready for any of this to happen, especially if we're in wildfire season or ice storm season, because these things happen. especially now. Like, we don't have summer, we have wildfire season, which is just ridiculous, but that's the way of the world right now with climate change and, you know, all kinds of other things. So have your important personal papers handy for everybody in your household. So for me, it's just me and Cindy Lou. I had to grab, I had a bag of where I put in my insurance papers for my house and for my car, my passport, her veterinary records, which I also have electronic. I have her veterinary records electronically, and some of my medical records I have electronic as well, because I had to get those from my doctor before I left Ontario to move to Newfoundland. So grab all those things. Plus, you might want to grab last year's income tax record, or the, you know, even the last couple of years income tax record, just so that you have that just so you have that information. She's wanting some attention now, apparently. Yeah, okay. Isn't she just the cutest thing ever? Yes, she is. Okay, that's new. Yep. Okay. So have all your important papers ready. Look through your homeowner's insurance or your renter's insurance to see what are you covered for. Make sure, are you covered for a wildfire? Are you covered for a landslide? Are you covered for flood? Just make sure what you're covered for. See, do you have enough coverage? Do you have too much coverage? Like, you know, if you're living in the middle of the desert, or, you know, on top of a mountain, what are the odds of each of these types of things going to happen? So we know, what are the natural disasters likely to happen where you are? Do you have coverage for those? Do you have coverage for stuff that is not likely to happen? That kind of thing. Talk to your insurance provider, see if you can change your policy if necessary. For after the evacuation, so a lot of people, they had camper trailers, so they just hooked up the camper trailer to the truck and they drove it to the evacuation center. So here they had them, everybody was being housed at the local school because it was summertime, so school was not in session. So there was people living on cots in the gym, and then people who had camper trailers were in the park across the street. With full access to the showers and laundry facilities inside the school and the kitchens. Red Cross and Salvation Army were cooking meals 3 times a day for people, and they were making sure, like, if somebody, you know, came up and said, I would really like some chocolate chip cookies, they came over to the store and they bought up, you know, a ton of chocolate chip cookies, as much as we wanted. Whatever anybody wanted, the Red Cross and or the Salvation Army made sure that they had it. If they needed stuff, they made sure that they had it, except for, unfortunately, their own homes. So a lot of people lived in their trailers, or they lived in the school gymnasium for 3 weeks when Labor Day came, and then the kids were going to have to go back to school the next day. By that point, they had found everybody accommodation who needed accommodation. A lot of the people by Labor Day, or the week before Labor Day, were allowed to go back to their homes if it was safe for them to do. So, like, some of the homes were still standing but were too damaged to be able to move into. And then some houses were untouched, completely untouched. So they were allowed to go home. And then other people who lost their homes, they were found accommodation, or they are living with family. Some people have already started to rebuild. Good for them. Other people are still, going through their insurance, or, whatever. For the cleanup, I don't know what she's into now. For the cleanup, there was... so many people who came from other provinces to help out. There was a group of Mennonites who came from Ontario, another group of Mennonites who came from New Brunswick, and they were here for a couple or 3 weeks. They were helping with the cleanup, and I saw them every day coming into the grocery store, buying up the food so that they could feed all of the men who were doing all the cleanup work. So thank you so much for that. The Red Cross was very good. There are still people coming into the grocery store using the Red Cross monies that were given to them because they had to evacuate. And now for the people who lost their homes, I think they're still receiving funds from the Red Cross. The government, I think, is also helping out in some way. I'm not sure. I know the government had committed to buying the volunteer firefighters proper wildfire gear. So all of the firehouses on Conception Bay North are all volunteer firefighters. They were fighting these wildfires in their structure fire turnout, which weighs a lot of, each kit is 40 pounds or something. So the poor guys, they were out there trying to fight the fire in a structure fire kit. So the provincial government is buying all the firehouses, I think in the province, all the volunteer firehouses are getting wildfire fighting turnout. There are provincial full-time wildfire fighters, as well as federal full-time wildfire firefighters. Wow. Plus we had firefighters come in from Ontario, from the eastern US, from Utah. We had a couple of Black Hawk helicopters with crew come up, and other private water bombers came in, and these folks, that's just what they do. They go all around the world whenever there's a fire that needs help putting out. That's what these people do. We have in Canada, because our wildfire season is the opposite of wildfire season in the southern hemisphere, we get people up from Australia that come regularly, and as well as Canadians go to Australia to help out, when they're on fire. So as to how this particular large fire got started, of course, no fire is large when it starts. She's gone bonkers. There was a rash of wildfires or brush fires started up on Conception Bay North this past year. It started in May, possibly earlier than that, but there was the big fire in Adams Cove in May, and then several other small fires between that Adams Cove fire, and then the Kingston fire, which started August 3rd. That one, we were well into the drought by that point. It had been several months with very, very little rain. We had a heat dome hanging over us for a couple of weeks, so it was hot, it was dry, and then this fire got sparked somehow. We don't know yet what the cause of that particular fire was. It is speculated to have been deliberately caused by humans. Some of the rumors that I heard through people here when I was at work, saying that, people had found aluminum cans, like pop cans, stuffed with steel wool. Now for preppers and bushcrafters and people who do wildlife safety, or what's the word, survival, know that if you take a fine steel wool and put it up to a battery, it will start a fire. It'll spark a fire. So people were saying that they found a can that was stuffed with steel wool and some ground that was scorched around it. So that particular fire didn't get started or didn't keep going. But the big Kingston fire may have been started in a similar fashion. Recently on the news, they did a thing with the local RCMP detachment who are now saying they did not take resident complaints serious enough. A lot of residents had made calls to the local RCMP detachment saying that they had found items like this or had seen people out in the bush starting fires. And as I said, there were 12 fires that firefighters had to be called for in on CBN from May until the big fire started in August. So the RCMP is saying we did not take those calls serious enough. So they are doing an internal investigation, I think, to determine like why did they not take these calls serious. And then of course there's just the ongoing fire investigation, what caused this particular fire, and who, if it turns out to have been deliberately set. So that investigation is still ongoing. As far as I know, they don't know yet what caused this particular fire. What caused it to get as big as it did was a month's long drought and a heat dome sitting over top of the island for 2 weeks. Newfoundland, it tends to be, like, as my neighbor says, it's sunny, it's windy. And we had nonstop sunshine, which, you know, for a lot of things that would not be a huge problem. You know, when the kids are on summer break, they want to have sunshine for their, you know, summer holidays. But it was so hot, it was so dry that the sun was causing some issues. And the wind was causing the fire to spread very, very quickly. There were experienced firefighters who said they had never seen a fire act the way that particular fire acted. It was just coming at them and just getting hotter and hotter and hotter. In the end, it burned over 10,000 hectares, destroyed over 200 structures, most of which were homes. Other structures were, I think, a church and a community center and a couple of businesses and, you know, like sheds, garages and stuff like that. But most of it was homes. And then, you know, like a lot of those people who lost their homes, they don't have insurance. So what do? They're going to have some help from the government somehow. I don't know how, but they will possibly you know, get their homes rebuilt. But, you know, like other towns that have burned, like Lytton, British Columbia, that burned, I believe that was 2021. It just, like, literally the entire town, I think except 2 houses were burned down. That was 2021, and it's still not completely rebuilt. So, you know, how long is it going to take to get these homes rebuilt? We're on an island, so building supplies have to be shipped in. It's going to cost a lot. As I learned myself from having home repairs done just since I moved here, just stuff costs more. Building materials cost a little bit more here on the island, and they take longer to get here than they would on the mainland. So there's a lot of things that that I've learned just from being close to it. Another thing I learned was because with the evacuees, if like they were not able to help a lot of people who had special dietary needs. So for people like me with celiac disease, they were cooking like these mass meals for, hundreds and hundreds of people 3 times a day. And, like in the morning, they were putting out, breakfast cereal and, bacon and eggs and stuff like that. But, and toast. And then lunches, sandwiches, and then dinners, like pasta or whatever. So, they did, I think, some grilling and whatever. But, so a lot of it would not have been safe for me to eat. It would have been a high probability of cross-contamination. Even if I did get just bacon and eggs, there might have been some cross-contamination going on there. So I had to make sure that that one night of panic, when we were completely socked in with smoke that came out of nowhere, I grabbed all of my prep food. I have a box of just like freeze-dried foods that I have for emergencies. I have my 72-hour bag that lives in the car all the time, but then I have my prep food, and I have all of these things in a space that is going to be easy for me to grab and go. Also, because I have my dog, I will very likely have to grab her crate in case, like, if it's wintertime and we have to evacuate for, an ice storm, or a house, or not a house, if the apple tree behind my house falls on top of my house, like something like that. If it's a time when I don't want to live in the car, or if it's 40 degrees outside, 40 degrees Celsius, which is freaking hot for you American viewers, if there are any. 40 degrees, I think it's like 104 Fahrenheit. You don't want to live outside in that kind of heat. I would have to have a crate for her so that she can be in the shelter, in the evacuation center with me. Now, the first evacuation center that they had, I don't think was allowing pets, but the second one was. So there was a lot of dogs in there, I was told. So for her, because she gets very reactive when she's stressed out, so I would have just put her in the crate while we're indoors, or she might just start a fight or something. So if we're in the car, the crate is going to take up a whole lot of room, but we would have to work something out. We would figure it out. I believe I mentioned in a previous video that people did lose their pets. When they first evacuated, they figured they're going to be back home in a couple of days, because that's what happened with the Adams Cove fire in May. They didn't have to evacuate for very long. They got the fire under control. Even though it did burn 12 homes, they got it under control a lot faster. But the Kingston fire, it burned for 2 months, I think. I think it was officially declared out at the beginning of October, and it started August 3rd. So it was a couple of months. So, you have to kind of plan you have to prep for these kinds of things, and it's difficult for stuff like that. To have enough on hand, like eventually we would have to, find accommodation and then kind of get back to normal. But initially there's that first panic where you're going to be, living in the car or living on a cot in a school gym somewhere. Yeah. So these are just some of the things that I've learned. I'm going to link in the description below hopefully I can find it now, the video or the kind of news thing that the CBC did with the local RCMP detachment and the residents from CBN who had complained to, or had made calls to the RCMP about what was going on. And that they thought all of these fires were being deliberately started by somebody. And some of them claim to know who it is. Of course, there is the ongoing investigation, so nobody can really say anything on television. Anyway, so if I've forgotten anything, I don't think now. I think I went through all of it. It's just, you know, how do you plan for natural disasters? It's difficult. Like, I've seen videos on YouTube from preppers, like, you know, doomsday preppers. Do you ever watch that TV show? It's crazy. But preppers who, you know, normally they have all these preps to get them through, you know, like a year worth of disaster. But then Hurricane Helene came and swept their house away down the river. Like, you can't, there's nothing you can do about that. They had very little notification for, you know, how severe that storm was going to be. Like, they knew a storm was coming, but they didn't know it was going to wipe away, you know, so much. And hurricanes are like that, and wildfires are like that. They're just unpredictable. You don't know where they're going. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know the destruction they're going to leave behind. So, you know, be as ready as you possibly can. But then just know you might just lose everything. Which, that's a cheery note to end on. I will say one thing. There was no loss of life here with the Kingston fire in Newfoundland. As far as I know, there was no loss of life at all on the island with all of the fires. I can't remember what the total number of fires were. It was up in the 230 something, possibly 240 something. Last year, there were 97 wildfires on Newfoundland and Labrador. This year, well over 200. Which says a lot for, possibly because of firebugs here on CBN, but also climate change. This was a very, very, very dry year. Last year, it rained every day in November, but then we hardly got any precipitation at all after that. It snowed like maybe 3 times here on the Avalon after that, and we had hardly any rain at all. It's November now, 16th or 17th today, I can't remember. We've had some rain for November. It's the rainy season, but it's not been every day like last year. And we've had some good torrential downpours, but it's still not enough for them to lift the water conservation order. The water levels are up a little bit, but not enough. Like, wells have run dry, entire towns have run out of water here on Newfoundland. So it's pretty bad situation, really. And we may well have a rash of wildfires again next season, but hopefully not. But if we do, hopefully I'll know a little bit more about how to be prepared for it. And if we have to evacuate, we'll be ready. So thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up, comment below. Let me know if you ever have had to evacuate from a natural disaster, whether fire, flood, tornado, hurricane, whatever. You know, what did you do? Are you a prepper? Where do you keep your preps? How do you prep? Do you have, you know, somewhere to go? What are you prepping for? Are you prepping for, you know, a complete collapse of society, which could also happen, the way the world is going these days? Or are you prepping for natural disaster? So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll catch you later.